What's up, guys? Today's show is brought to you, as always, by ThriveFantasy.com. It's DFS for prop vets. Visit ThriveFantasy.com and download the app for iOS or Android. Use our promo code ARMCHAIR to receive an instant credit up to $50. Choose your favorite prop bets to build your lineup and compete against the rest of the field for cash prizes. Again, sign up at ThriveFantasy.com or download the app for iOS and Android and use our promo code ARMCHAIR and receive your instant match. Got a great show today, guys. It is the fantasy playoffs. As you know, it is week 14. If you're listening to the show, congratulations, you made it. It is now a 3-week sprint to the championship. But with that said, guys, hold tight. We'll hit the intro and we'll get right to it.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for 2, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What's going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 186 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can find me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are here every Wednesday and Friday night for a couple more weeks. We are also live, obviously, on Facebook. We're on Periscope, YouTube. We're on Twitch. We're on all your major podcast networks and streaming in the Going for 2 app for iOS and Android. I'm here as always with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, what's up, man? You're muted, Ryan.
Complete amateur move. I apologize. Yeah, man. It's fantasy playoffs. My team doesn't have COVID anymore, so that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I finished the Going for 2 Raiders League undefeated.
Yes. I hate you
We're
for it.
taking the whole way through.
I hate you for it because I should have beat you that one week when I left Olabisi Johnson on my bench. Kills me every day.
I'm just saying, I think you changed it where I didn't get a bye. I think you guys changed the playoff format a week ago.
It's a 20-team league, so there is no buys. Sorry about that.
Trash.
All right, also joining us tonight for her first time on the show, Steffi Smalls of the Fantasy Intervention Podcast. You can find her on Twitter at Steffi Smalls with 3 L's in Smalls. Steph, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. What's up, everyone? I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a blast. It's Definitely. Exciting. I can't believe we're at week 14 now. I keep messing it up because I can't believe we're here already.
Yeah, it comes so fast. And it's weird, too, having so many games. You have the Tuesday game sometimes, then you get a Thursday game, and we had a Wednesday game last week. It messes you up. You don't know which week you're in. It's difficult to sometimes
my liver hates me at this point. We're at the point where football needs to end for at least my well-being.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
All right, for those that don't know you, kind of give us an idea of what you do over at the Fantasy Intervention Podcast, and I know you do a few things with the Giants, stuff as well. Yeah. But kind of give us an idea of what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually a medical student. This kind of all fell in my lap this season. Right now I'm working with Fantasy Intervention. You guys can find us on Twitter at @joinOurCircle_. So we're launching our site. Our site's up. It's getting a couple pieces that need to be in there, but I do an injury report on Tuesday, which is kind of nice. Going into the next week, you kind of get a little update on the injuries and what to look out for with the practice statuses. And then I also do an injury report with the New York Giants Rush. And then I also have my own channel with Sleeper Wire, and I interview a bunch of beat writers from all over the NFL, which has been really cool. So that's something I've been doing the past couple of weeks, which has been awesome. I'm getting a little bit inside scoop. So that's been very cool.
Good stuff. Yeah, Jay on Twitter, he's a regular. He's one of our writers. He made sure to remind me the first place Giants is what he said.
Oh God.
I know.
What's this world, man?
All right, we got
to. We'd end up that way, but.
What was that? I didn't catch that.
What was that?
I said what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said. The last thing you said there.
I was just saying, I can't believe the Giants are in first place. Coming from the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
It's just the declaration of 2020.
Yeah,
so.
it's crazy. That whole division's flipped. I mean, usually people had either Philly or Dallas at top. Of course, they're at the bottom now, and no one had the Washington football team or the Giants at the top. And, of course, they're sitting at the top now. So it's pretty crazy season.
Very creepy.
All right, we got a packed show. Let's go ahead and get to the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
News and notes is brought to you by Society Socks. Bold socks with a social cause. For every pair of socks you buy, a pair is given to charity. Socks /armchair. Use our promo code armchair and get 50% off your first month subscription. All right, we got a couple notes here. Ryan, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Carson Wentz, it's been talked about a couple weeks now in a row. They finally pulled the trigger and they benched him. What are your thoughts on this for this year, and for dynasty purposes? What are your thoughts on it for the for the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a huge Carson Wentz apologist, and he needed benched. Like, that team needed it, and Jalen Hurts kind of fits that new evolution of quarterbacks. The only thing that's kind of screwed up is Carson Wentz is now the highest paid backup ever, and they can't get out of his contract.
Yep.
If they'd cut him next year, they'd have $59 million in dead money next year, 24 the year after it, 14 and 8, I believe, the years after. So they can't do anything with him. Let's say Bobby Boney give him 30 years, $3 million. It kind of screws them up cap-wise, unless they can find a sucker every team to get it. But we have more quarterbacks now than young, talented quarterbacks. It's kind of screwed. Yeah. I think it sets the team back for a while. But fantasy-wise, I love Jalen Hurts there. I love what he does for Miles Sanders, because we've seen running backs really succeed when they have a mobile quarterback in there. I think that's going to help for that breakout that just hasn't come this year for him.
Yeah, I agree. Steph, what are your thoughts? This is your division, so what are your thoughts on Carson Wentz being benched?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, because if you told everyone in the NFC East 5 years ago that the Giants and the Washington football team would be ahead of it, let alone that would be their name, everyone would be very shocked. But, I mean, so my thing kind of with Wentz is, I don't know what the idea is with putting him on another team. So are we also being apologetic to the fact that it's not Wentz's issue? Then why are the Eagles getting rid of him? So it'll be a little interesting how they deal with this situation and how he'll do somewhere else. I know people have been talking about the Colts, so it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is definitely bad news for the rest of the division, but I don't know that it's going to take them as far as they are hoping.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think, looking at it from a dynasty perspective too, I don't know what you do with Carson Wentz if you own him right now, because his value is going to be low. Where will he play next year is the question. I mean, I can't imagine that they're going to go back to him after benching him. I don't know. That's possible, I guess. It's happened. What was that, Ryan?
I don't think they can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible.
Unless someone trades for him.
I know, but it's hard. Who would do it?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah,
I don't know.
It could be one of those trades where they agree to pay half of his salary, and they get rid of him that way. To a team that's got a lot of cap space.
They did that with what's his name from Houston a few years back.
Yeah, the guy who got the big contract from Denver, and I can't think of his name right now. It's escaping me, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. All right, let's move on to the next topic here. We've got a couple small ones, so I'll just kind of ask each one of you at just one at a time. Ryan, A.J. Green expected to move on from the Bengals after the season. No surprise there, but if you have him in Dynasty, any interest in where he might end up, or do you think he's pretty much washed at this point?
I mean, if I have him on my team right now, I'm just holding him, because he could in a position where he gets some volume. But I think it's more of them putting everything on T. Higgins. Like, they believe they have their new wide receiver one. He can move on. He's out of the picture. I don't think you're going to get much fantasy production on wide receiver 3 if you're lucky in a premier spot, but not really feeling that.
Yeah, I agree. And it was Brock Osweiler. Someone on Facebook or Twitter just reminded me of who that person was. But yeah, Brock Osweiler ended up having some weird contract situation where he got basically bought out. All right, Steph, you do the injury stuff here. So Antonio Gibson, I think he's definitely been ruled out for this week. If you're in the fantasy playoffs right now, are you panicking without Gibson in your lineup?
So I'm okay on Gibson. He's not someone. So my one thing, I talked about this earlier this week during my injury report, is don't panic too much, because you did get this far without him, because I would imagine that people were picking him up a little bit later on, unless it was kind of a fluke or you got a little lucky. He didn't really start producing until a little bit later, but unfortunately, the mechanism of that injury did not look great. I think we're looking at, turf toe is a pain in the butt. This is something that's super frustrating for players. It's super painful. It's annoying because it's just your toe. You think it doesn't make any sense. Why is it so painful? But I don't think we're going to see him the rest of the season unless they make it to the playoffs, which the Giants will take care of. So,
yeah, turf toe is kind of a bitch. I know, we kind of think of it, turf toe, that that shouldn't sideline some of these big athletes, but it is. It's one of those injuries that can linger, and it's very painful. So, agreed that you're probably out without him, or I'd make plans to be without him for the rest of the fantasy playoffs.
Right.
Ryan, so Godwin missed practice today. I haven't heard any update on him with pins in his finger. This guy seems to be in and out of the lineup. Does that do anything for Antonio Brown, you think, if Godwin does miss this game?
I'm starting to not really feel the Antonio Brown thing. I think it's Scotty Miller who's kind of gotten that pickup from him over AB. AB's been inconsistent to catch here or there, but Scotty Miller's been that go-to for Brady over the middle, and kind of who he's trusted. So I'd gladly play him over AB. I'm not there with him anymore as much. So he's not really shown much. He looks a little bit washed.
Yeah.
And Brady picks his favorites, and we know who that is, unfortunately, even though he may not have as much talent.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I don't know how. Somehow I always find a way to get you the Antonio Brown questions for some reason. Because you living there in Pittsburgh, you get a different feel, different vibe for that.
I can't get away from the dude.
No one can.
All right, and the last one on here is Josh Jacobs likely out week 14. Of course, owners are going to be super frustrated there, but any interest in the running backs that we saw last week? I mean, we saw a little bit of Rashard, we saw a little bit of Booker. Did any of them show anything for you that you could plug into your lineup this week for the playoff stuff?
So I know that Booker was a very hot topic. I know people were very upset with his. I mean, he didn't produce as everyone expected, but for me, I think that he's someone that will still. I don't know that I would take him out had you put him in. I think with his matchup this week, and I don't think he's going to be someone that's going to produce the same way that he has. So I think with Booker, I'm okay with leaving him in had you need to pick him up, because there obviously was a reason that you had to pick him up.
Right.
That you had Jacobs, but Jacobs' injury isn't looking too hot either. So I would hang on to that Booker as well, because it's starting to feel a little bit more involved to me. It's starting to seem a little high ankle sprainy, so I don't know if I would definitely at least keep Booker. He's not someone that you should drop, in my opinion.
Yeah. The fact that they were kind of questioning his status. I mean, right after the game last week, it seemed like they're already questioning his status for week 14. It's never a good sign. They usually coaches like to stretch it out. Oh, we'll see how it is tomorrow. We'll see how it is tomorrow. He was saying he was likely not to play. I mean, on Monday, so definitely not a good sign for sure.
Not looking good.
All right, we'll update our Pick'em contest. Me and Ryan. Ryan had another good week, 2 back-to-back good weeks, and has now come back from a 3-game deficit. We are now tied 119 to 119. So basically, it is a 3-week sprint now to the end of the season to see who wins this contest, and of course, whoever loses, the other person gets to pick their background image for a month of January. So it should be interesting. All right, let's get to these game previews.
This week's game-by-game previews.
All right, guys, for the past few weeks, we've done this format, and it seems to work out pretty well for us. We're going to do a mock draft style. Basically, Steph or Ryan, they're going to basically draft a game they want to talk about, which has some important fancy topics, and just kind of they have the floor to talk about it. And to kick it off, we're going to go with Steph. She's got the 101. So what game do you want to talk about, Steph?
I mean, as everyone would expect, I'm going to talk about that Giants game. So we're going to talk Giants-Cardinals. I mean, so as far as this game goes, it's a little interesting because I think most people like myself who have Kyler Murray, you're noticing last week he didn't produce the way he does. So you're very used to him getting well over 20 points for you, and that wasn't the case. So he's definitely nursing that AC joint sprain there. I think it's a little bit more involved than they're saying. So with the Giants defense, with the momentum that they have, the Cardinals I think they're in for a little bit of trouble as trying to be as unbiased as possible. With Daniel Jones, probably will be back. That doesn't mean that he's going to be rushing. No one should start Daniel Jones, but that does mean that players like Shepard, Slayton, who both for the first time were not on the injury report. this week, which is shocking to me, and as well as Ingram, which makes me want to throw up. But the three of them have, if you do have them, they are players that will 100% probably benefit from Jones being back. I mean, they obviously had to adjust the playbook, but it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm excited to see how this plays out. We'll see how it goes, especially Gallman. I mean, that was someone that I picked up. I had no idea that he was going to end up on almost all of my rosters.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic for this game. This is a fantastic with the way that Arizona defense is playing. I think that Gallman's definitely a great option. He had his longest run this past week, 60 yards. So he's definitely been crushing it, which is amazing because he's been on the Giants just sitting there wasting away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and go back to Kyler Murray. I actually own him in my main dynasty league, and I benched him last week. I benched him for Ryan Tannehill, which worked out, and I may actually bench him for Ryan Tannehill again this week because Tannehill, I think, got Jacksonville. So that Giants defense has been playing really well. I mean, they made Russell Wilson look like a regular quarterback last week. So I agree.
Right, and they're very similar. I don't want to compare the two. Obviously, Russell has had a fantastic career, and I don't damper that by any means, but they're a little bit similar in some ways. So I think that it's a similar matchup in the sense of the quarterback, but in the same way, Arizona is obviously they're struggling a little bit now. They are coming off. They were doing very well, not as much. So we'll see. Hopefully, they pull it together and just hold on. The Giants in this game. I'm so worried.
All right, Ryan, you're up at the 102. What game you got?
I want to talk Patriots Rams and our breakout game we saw with Cam Akers. It kind of just put in perspective a little bit. It was awesome. He had 63% snap share. He had 21 of the team's 27 rush attempts. He dominated the backfield for them. His yards per average wasn't great. He wasn't super efficient. He got in the red zone. It's a good performance, and we were happy about it fantasy-wise. But I think we need to pump the brakes just a little bit. Like, I'm excited about it for Dynasty. I think he's their RB1 next year, no questions asked. But production-wise this year, I don't know if we're there yet. He has no real parts of the passing game. He had one target, and I think like 4 total on the season, which at college, it was something he was a big part of his game, and they haven't utilized that at all. That makes me nervous from here on out. This week against New England, I don't love it. Maybe after that against the Jets, but while it's really awesome, I don't think he's someone we're plugging in right now, unless we're in dire needs.
Right, yeah, exactly. I agree 100%. I think if this is like week 7, week 8, maybe you plug him in because he looks pretty good. But the fact that it's week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, you don't want to risk it. And I think even Darrell Henderson went out in this game for a little while as well. He had a knee injury and he was out of the game. So who knows if he would have gotten that same workload if Henderson had played. I think Henderson came back, but he was out on the sideline for quite a while.
The upside's there. It's just it's not there yet.
Yeah, agreed. And I can tell you as an owner, I was frustrated too with those goal line carries where he couldn't get in. They gave him 3 straight carries at the goal line and he couldn't find a way to get in there. I was upset about that. I was hoping he'd get that touchdown. All right, Steph, we're up to you at the 103. What you want to go with to the 103? Oh, I think you're on mute.
So he's fine, but it's, I think the interesting one is let's go Steelers at Bills. So Steelers coming off this loss to Washington obviously is, I don't know how shocking it was for everyone. I'm hoping it wasn't too shocking with the Steelers' complete inability to run the ball at this rate. Something that does benefit them is Connor, right? Am I saying?
James Connor, yep.
Coming back. So having him at least will add that. Allen and Diggs have been doing very well. I personally have Diggs in nearly all of my leagues. I own him as well. So I think seeing that matchup, seeing what the Steelers D can do, coming off this loss from Washington, obviously, which has to be a little bit of an ego bruiser, it will be interesting because I think that the Bills are doing much better and playing much more meaningful football than everyone is recognizing. So I think that game will kind of be a tell-all on how the Steelers are because I imagine them losing to them prior to Washington. I thought that was going to be their upset week. I knew it was coming. I mean, we've seen them. They've been very close throughout the entire season to coming to a loss. I don't really trust Big Ben. If that's someone that people have, I think there's still some available options. I know that Taysom Hill is still – so there are other options as far as quarterback goes. I think if you're trying to get a little bit more points, I don't know that Ben is going to produce as well. I mean, you've seen the way that they're covering a lot of these running backs and wide receivers on them. Johnson's been doing very well, though. He is someone that I think will probably be in the limelight this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think Johnson is the guy to own there. I think we, all season's been like, who is the one? Is it Claypool this week? Is it Juju this week? Is it Deontay Johnson? I think if all three of them are fully healthy, I think Johnson's the one I'm going to bank on for most of the time.
100%.
All right, Ryan, we're at the 104. What you got?
I'm going to talk a little pain and suffering from the man who helped knock me out of my home league this week. And it's Logan Thomas. And he's somebody I don't think I would have noticed if it wasn't for this game, where he was targeted 9 times for 98 yards and a touchdown. Like, it was a monster performance. But when you look back, this whole year, he hasn't had a game under 4 targets yet. He's a massive part of that Washington offense. And we've seen year after year how well Alex Smith uses the tight end position. And it's something we'll see an uptick with. The yards didn't match it for a couple games, but he's been slowly putting up 60-yard games, 50-yard games. He almost hit 100 this week. That offense runs really well when he's in there, and coming down this last stretch, we might see a lot more of him. And with how bad the tight end position is, I'm going to chase those targets.
Yeah, and Alex Smith is kind of known as a quarterback that makes the tight end good. I mean, he had Vernon Davis for so long in San Francisco. He had Travis Kelce, of course, in Kansas City for a little while. And now he's got this guy that's, super athletic. I mean, he's one of the top athletic tight ends in the league. He just never can get a start, and finally getting his chance there, and he's showing what he can do, and Alex Smith trusts him, so that's the important thing there. All right, we are up at the 105, Steph. What you got for me?
All right, let's do Falcons at Chargers. So I was a little skeptical to talk about this one, but I think Gurley is also someone that everyone has. He is someone that obviously has struggled, and I can imagine has been a frustrating player for some people. I think that he is not someone that you're really going to want to trust in this. This is going to be a good matchup. I mean, these teams, they really match up pretty well on both sides of the ball. But then again, you have Herbert. He doesn't have quite as many like tools, I guess, in the best way to put it. But then the Falcons too. How can you always trust? I have a hard time with these guys. I mean, Ridley, Julio Jones. These are guys that have frustrated the crap out of me for years of playing fantasy football. So yeah, I really could see the Chargers pulling this one off. So I'm a little skeptical of this game. I think that I didn't think I looked at the betting odds for this one. Does anyone know if the Falcons are favored? Or?
I think it may even be a pick'em, actually. I can pull it up real quick if you want to keep talking.
Okay. They're -2.5.
-2.5.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. So I don't know. So this is one of those games that could really go either way. It kind of depends how the play calls are going. It depends if Gurley is going to actually play football or if he's going to be a decoy on the field. But I think that a lot of these players are not ones, if you have the option to not play them, I think I would. This game I'm going to stay a little clear from, I think. As far as my lineup. Yeah,
I agree 100%. I think with injuries, with Julio, and then you got Todd Gurley, who's been pretty much touchdown dependent his last couple of years.
Right.
If he's not getting touchdowns, he's not getting you points usually. He's not racking the yards up anymore. He's not getting the catches that he used to get. So I agree. I'd be worried about Todd Gurley as well if I owned him. Sure. All right, Ryan, we are at the 106. What you got?
I'm kind of want to talk about Kamara and like this panic we've had about him recently again, because he's not being involved with passing game with Taysom Hill. And 2 weeks ago, he had one of his worst games of the year. This week, he got back on track a little bit. I think at this point, it's kind of game plan dependent with how good of a player Latavius Murray is. His first game where he struggled, they went up big, and they went from there. And I think against the Eagles, he's going to be more involved. the Eagles have struggled against backs a little bit, and while their record doesn't show it, they really showed they could score some points last week with Hurts in there. So I think that's a time where if they're scoring and they make it a little bit of a track meet, I think Kamara is still going to be relevant. And it's not like you'll bench him, but you can kind of bring your expectations up a little more. And Drew Brees is so close to coming back. And once Brees is back, Kamara's back. If he's there for your fantasy championship, you're just sitting there with money.
Yep. And I think the biggest thing with Kamara, because I own Kamara in one of my leagues, and it's Taysom Hill's ability to run the ball in that red zone area. Kamara's not getting those carries at the 5-yard line anymore that he was in the beginning of the season when Drew Brees was back there. So it's frustrating to watch it. I mean, it worked for the Saints, obviously, so they're going to keep doing it. But as a Kamara owner, you just want to see those touches in the red zone area to get those points for the touchdown. So, yeah, I agree. I think that we're a little overreacting a little bit. Kamara is still an all-world back. He's still, if anything, the fact that they haven't used him the last couple of weeks, maybe he'll be healthier going into the playoffs now, and we can just ride him out throughout through the playoffs. All right, so let's go. We'll do 107 and a 108, and then we'll call it on this one. So, Steph, you got the 107. Who you got?
Okay, so let's talk Jets Seahawks. This is a little bit of an interesting one, right? So we're looking at the Jets who somehow Sam Arnold is coming back being like, we don't need Lawrence, actually, because I played phenomenal. I mean, the guy did awesome. I was just trying to look at 315 yards. I mean, obviously, probably should have scored a couple more touchdowns, but that game was going in the Jets' favor, whether everyone likes it or not. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, he did fairly well. So against the Seahawks, who are they're coming off this loss with the Giants. Lockett kind of got banged up. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to look at the practice status. I'm a little nervous on him. Also Carson as well. I know they have someone else coming back this week, but I'm a little skeptical of Carson in particular. I think that he is very obviously still nursing that foot. I mean, you're not seeing the Carson that we've seen, right? I had him a couple years ago in some leagues, and that was a very different situation than right now. You can tell that he is struggling a little bit. I mean, do I think the Jets are going to upset the Seahawks? No, but do I think some of those players could probably give you some good points? I think that this still probably be one of those weeks. I mean, you're seeing some flaws really come through with the Seahawks, and I'm sure they'll prepare, but it's a little bit hard to prepare when the Jets quarterback hasn't been playing. So, because I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't know why you would even. I mean, I get a lot of crap for this, but I mean, do you really draft a quarterback if he plays like that the rest of the season? It's I think he played well. Yeah,
it's a tough thing that they'll be put in because they're almost guaranteed now to get that top pick. And do you take him and do you get rid of Darnold, give up on him? Because I mean, he has looked good. When the time that he's been on the field, at least when he's healthy, he actually doesn't look too bad. So I agree 100% that they got a big decision to make in the offseason if Darnold continues to play well.
Yeah, please do not start him, though. Don't start Darnold.
If they can get a second-round pick for Darnold, that'd be...
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great for whoever made the trade.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
Who takes Darnold? Who's going to take him?
I think the Washington football team has been interested. I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and that's all they're talking about on the radio right now. It's, we can go get Darnold. We can get Darnold. Alex Smith, older. Dwayne Haskins they've given up on. Kyle Allen's not the answer, so why not just give a shot on Darnold, especially for a second-round pick?
Yeah. There's a lot of quarterbacks jumping around, though, so it's Cam Newton, there's a lot of people that could go another way, so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Agreed.
I still like him in Pitt. He's a good fit in Pittsburgh to me.
Yeah, Pittsburgh will be a good
fit. He does
fit.
a lot of what Big Ben does.
Yeah.
And he can sit here, learn, but he likes to push the ball downfield. He's not afraid to take chances. He moves around the pocket and buys time. It's everything they've done in Pittsburgh for the past decade.
Yeah.
It's a perfect. It makes sense. I hope it doesn't happen, but it makes a lot of sense.
He's a Ravens fan. In case you didn't know that, he lives in Pittsburgh, but he's a Ravens fan. So
I almost picked that game, so I'm glad I didn't, because you probably wouldn't like me by then.
Ryan, real quick, we had a question real quick that I want to get to on Facebook. AJ Smithington asked a question. So he wants to know, does he add Cam Akers and drop David Johnson, or should he keep David Johnson in a half-point PPR league?
I'm assuming it's redraft.
Yes, redraft.
I'm keeping David Johnson, and it pains me to say it, but his role in that offense is set. We're not worried about it. He doesn't have any real competition. Sorry, Duke Johnson, you're great, but no, you're not real competition. Take away from that. And that offense is pushing on the field, and they like getting him involved in the red zone. I just don't trust Akers yet, although I love the talent. If it's Dynasty, that's different, but it can't be with that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. The only situation I think that I would try to get Akers is because I do think Akers has the higher upside. You know, if we're talking about a guy that's going to possibly go out and get you, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, maybe Akers does it. He's got the talent to do it. So if I needed that sort of like lottery ticket, maybe I'm taking Akers. But if I'm a pretty consistent team, give me David Johnson and give me his safe floor, and that's who I'm going to go with in that, and especially in the half-point PPR league too. So definitely Johnson for me as well. All right, Ryan, you got the 108.
I want to talk about your boy specifically here, and it's Corey Davis in this breakout we saw last week. And we've been seeing, and it makes so much sense when you look at it. So, with Johnny, who's been hurt, who hasn't really been a huge part of the offense, but Corey Davis has had these games with 12 targets, 10 targets mixed in with some lower ones, and they've been all against teams who have a really strong CB1. So his 12 targets against Cleveland, they have Ward, who would have been on A.J. Brown, getting the extra attention. Against Baltimore, he had 7 targets. They have Marlon Humphrey. Same with Pittsburgh and Hayden. Only one that's weird is Cincinnati because they're kind of trash. But if you look at him in this playoff schedule coming up, Jacksonville's a good matchup for him this week. I can't think of the rookie corner's name, but he's been balling out a little bit. So he'll see some more openings there. Detroit, again, another team. They have Jeff Okudah, who's played really well, who's going to be on A.J. Brown, leaving him by himself. And then followed up with Green Bay, who they've had Alexander, who's locked down. And wide receiver 2's just played very well for them. So I love his matchups coming up. And I think he could end up finishing really strong, getting himself a nice payday coming in next year.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm comfortable starting him as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, so I'm actually starting him over Galladay this week. If Galladay doesn't make the, if he's not starting, I got Corey Davis in my lineup. And I mean, how upset you think the Titans are now that they didn't pick his fifth-year option up? I mean, they didn't do that, so now he'll be a free agent. He's probably happy because he now go out and get paid, real quick. But yeah, it's his breakout. People are still not buying it. He's kind of the Devontae Parker of this year. You know what I mean? He's kind of that guy that no one's really buying into, but he's been crushing it all year.
The talent's always been there. It's just the situation's kind of sucked, and he wasn't meant to be a wide receiver 1, but he's thriving as a wide receiver 2.
Yep, agreed. All right, quick commercial break. When we come back, we are going to do some regular season awards. We're going to give some awards away. We'll talk about some of our calls from the off season. Some good calls, some bad calls that we made. Kind of putting ourselves on blast there. So hang tight, guys. With commercial break, and we'll be right back. What's up, everyone? Jeff Lambert here, and I want to tell you about Society Socks. Is your sock drawer kind of boring? I know mine is. Society Socks is a men's sock subscription company that sends 2 pairs of exclusively designed socks to your door every month. These socks are made of a warm, soft, and comfortable blend of combed cotton, guaranteed to make your feet feel and look great. At the office or the bar, your socks are sure to be a hit. You might be wondering, why are they called Society Socks? Well, that's the best part. Socks are one of the most needed and least donated items at homeless shelters. Society Socks aims to change that. With every pair of socks purchased, another pair of socks is donated to homeless shelters. So on top of receiving awesome socks every month and amping up your sock drawer, you are actively making a positive change in society. With 2 surprise pairs of socks arriving at your door every month, you'll begin to grow an impressive sock collection. Visit mysocietySocks.com/armchair and enter our promo code ARMCHAIR to get 50% off your first subscription. Put an end to boring socks and subscribe today. Again, that's mysocietysocks.com/armchair and use promo code ARMCHAIR. All right, guys, welcome back. I hate that commercial. Every time I look at it, I want to change it. I need to go back and record that commercial over again. I'm like a robot on that commercial. I know everybody in the chat always loves it. They're always waiting for those comb cotton socks. All right, I'm here with Ryan and Steph, and we are about to do some regular season awards and a regular season recap. And the first, let's kind of go round robin here. The first award that we're going to give out here is the best waiver wire pickup of the year. Steph, I'll go to you first. You're on mute, Steph.
Guys, I'm getting used to this. Everyone bear with me.
You're all good.
Still doing that. I'm studying for finals. My brain's a little fried. Football's on every day. I'm drinking. It's just too much. But I'll go with what I know best is the Giants. And I picked up Gallman, kind of seeing what was happening there. And, I mean, he's been a fantastic option for me. I have him in flex in a couple leagues. He's also my RB2 in a couple leagues. And his production's just gotten better every single week. So that was 100% my best pickup off of the waivers this year.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much maligned he was behind there when people saw, oh, Gallman's going to get the start now with Barkley being gone. Everybody's kind of like, But he's been money. I mean, he's been awesome all year. I agree. That's a great pick.
So wild, especially losing Freeman. And I know I actually picked up Freeman too, and then I dropped him, picked up Gallman, luckily, but he's done good. I mean, he snagged some spots for me. So
definitely. Ryan, who you got?
I got the guy who saved me in the Scott Fish Bowl this year. My first pick was Christian McCaffrey, which kind of just destroyed me. But week one, must have been week two when Leonard Fournette got traded, I dropped way too much fab, like 65 or 70% on James Robinson. And it was a huge swing, and it's really worked out. He has 1,200 plus scrimmage yards, 9 touchdowns. He's a lock RB1 every week, and he's just carried me all season in there, and it's awesome, man. He's come from nowhere, undrafted free agent, and if we're talking dynasty too, it might be his job. Like, they have much bigger needs. He could be a couple-year option there with really good production.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's actually the same guy I had on my list, too. I figured he'd probably be taken because he is kind of the low-hanging fruit. So I'll pick another guy that's, as a running back. Always seem to be running backs that we pick in this thing because they seem to be the ones that you can find on the waiver wire. But Myles Gaskins, I mean, who saw that coming? I mean, they go out to get Jordan Howard, they get Matt Breida, and then Myles Gaskins is the workhorse there in Miami. He's not been spectacular by any means, but he's a good flex option. He gets all the work in the red zone. He gets targets out of the backfield. So Myles Gaskins, I picked up in a couple of my leagues, and I've been happy with him all year. So I think Myles Gaskins is probably a close third to Gallman and Robinson being the two top guys there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, biggest surprise, Steph. What you got for your biggest surprise this year?
Yeah. So I had 2 names down, but I'm kind of, now that I'm looking at them, I don't know how I feel about the first one that I picked. I don't know if it was that big of a surprise or if that was just me, but I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. I think that at least going into this, I talked about him a little bit before. I mean, he's someone that when he gets thrown the ball, he's catching the ball. This guy is coming up. I'm looking back now. I mean, you're always getting some solid points from him. And it was a little bit hairy at the beginning, first 3 weeks, but you're always getting double digits from this guy. I mean, it's also great to watch him too. So, but it's a little shocking with all the stars that they have on the team. I mean, Juju, Washington. So there's a lot of people that I don't know that was expected, at least for me. I didn't expect him to be as well as he has been. Yeah, he's
been awesome. And a telling stat on that is, so he played the first 2 games, and then I think he missed the next 2 games. But in week 5, he still led the team in targets. You know what I mean? Like, even though he hadn't missed 2 games, he was still leading the team in targets from those first 2 games. So, yeah, he's been really good this year. I like that one. What about you, Ron? Who's your biggest surprise?
Yeah, I'm so mad she said him because we're talking too much positive Steelers stuff on a podcast I'm involved with. But I was actually going with Chase Claypool because I was so down on him in the draft process. Mm-hmm. I thought he was just an oversized tight end who, he ran great in a straight line, and I doubted it. But he's balling out, man. He has 8 touchdowns right now, and he's came on late. He's a big part of that offense, and he can put up huge fantasy numbers at any given time. He's a good football player. He's a guy who makes you want to go see what you missed, but it shocked me this year. It really was. If you had told me he had 650 yards and 8 touchdowns at this point of the season, I would have called you an idiot. But here we go.
Yep.
Here we are.
Yep, good call. All right, so the biggest surprise I had, and unfortunately his season is now ended, but Will Fuller staying healthy pretty much the all season, and he kind of did what we thought he could do if he stayed healthy. Yeah, wide receiver 14, he was crushing it this year. Unfortunately, he got the suspension for the PEDs, which probably kept him healthy. But yeah, I think Will Fuller, the fact that, I didn't take a chance on any of them. I didn't want to draft him anywhere. I was not trusting his ability to stay healthy, but he did it. He probably got you to the fantasy playoffs. Unfortunately, he won't be there to carry you through them, so hopefully you got some good replacements. But Will Fuller's my biggest surprise. Let's flip it. Biggest disappointment, Steph. Who you got?
Yeah, so this one's a little sensitive because in a lot of the leagues that when I was drafting, usually my downfall is the tight end. So this year I was all gung-ho. I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to draft a bomb tight end, second round. It's going to be awesome. And what do? I draft George Kittle like an idiot. So it's awesome. He's doing one week he got me, I think it was week 4, like almost 40.
Crushed it, yeah.
So that was my biggest disappointment, especially because I feel like in years past I've been burned by tight ends. So it's kind of been my burden playing fantasy.
Yep.
So that one really hurt because it's been hard. I mean, I think across the league though, tight ends have been it's a little bit iffy right now. You get what you get with certain people, but so that one a little bit broke my heart. Okay.
When you draft the tight end at the top too, it's very tough when you lose them for the season because you passed on some of those good running backs and good receivers, and you're not getting those guys in the late rounds. So yeah, it's
a lot harder to replace.
Yeah, definitely a lot harder to replace, that for sure. Especially when you got a guy like Kittle that's basically putting up wide receiver type numbers.
For sure.
Ryan, who do you got for your biggest disappointment?
I feel like I'm just picking on him, and it's wrong. But it's Carson Wentz. I had multiple shares of him, and he is just. I mean, I've been in leagues where he's scoring negative points in weeks, and he's getting benched on a guy who's got $100 million contract. There's nothing to say. He's just been bad. He's done. Like, it hurt a little bit.
Yeah, no, I had him on my list as well. I actually have him at the top of my list because I think I had him at QB7 coming into the season. I think he's QB 17 or 18 right now. I think he's not been good.
I don't want to look where I had him.
I'm sticking with the same team, actually. I'm going with the running back there. I'm going with Miles Sanders. I mean, you took him, in the first round most likely, maybe early second, late first. But he has not been good for you and not good lately either. I mean, I think he had a couple games where he was good, but for the most part, he's disappointed you. You wanted him to be your workhorse back, and he has not been that. So Miles Sanders definitely is somebody that's on my disappointment list for sure. All right, let's do Rookie of the Year, Fantasy Rookie of the Year. Steph, I'll go to you first. Oh, you're on mute again, Steph.
Guys, why do I do that? I'm not used to Skype, so
just leave it on now.
Just leave it on. You're good.
I don't want to be too loud. I'm learning the mic, whatever. So I'm going to go Justin Jefferson, which is probably, I don't know how everyone feels about that, but I mean, for me, I picked him up kind of a little skeptical of how it was going to go, but this guy is crushing it. I mean, I think he has probably seven touchdowns maybe by now,
Yep.
But he's definitely been someone that has been racking the points for me. I almost picked him up in a couple other leagues, knowing once I started to see that breakout start happening, I really snagged him as fast as possible. So for me, that's definitely going to be my Rookie of the Year. Yeah,
I like it. I actually took him in my Dynasty League. I got him at the 108 or something, and I'm loving life right now because he's been awesome. Ryan, who's your fancy Rookie of the Year?
I mean, it's Justin Jefferson. He's been my dude all year. I've been extremely high on him. He was my most owned player in fantasy this year, and he's wide receiver 4 right now. He's one of only 5 receivers to have 1,000 yards at 12 game mark in NFL history with Moss and Odell Beckham, and I think Odell's the only one ahead of him. He's on a record pace, man. He's fantastic. Burrow was up there before he got hurt, and we saw a little bit of fall off with Herbert, who had been up there, but Justin Jefferson is just so good.
Yeah,
he's doing it week in and week out, and just keeps getting better.
Yeah, he's been awesome. So y'all basically took mine. Mine was Justin Jefferson as well, but I'll go ahead and give some of the other guys that I had on my list. I had James Robinson, obviously. He probably wasn't drafted in most leagues, but obviously he's up there in points, and he's been killing it all year. But I'll take Justin Herbert, the guy we just talked about. For those late-round quarterback guys, you had, Lamar Jackson a few years ago. You had Patrick Mahomes a few years before that. Last year was probably Kyler Murray went later in drafts, and you're okay with him. But Justin Herbert has been, if you drafted late or got him on the waiver wire, Herbert's been amazing. He's QB9. You can plug and play. I play DFS, and I've been using Herbert pretty much every week, because he's going to throw the ball a ton. Who his options are. He's going to Keenan Allen. He's going to Hunter Henry, so you know who to stack him with. So Justin Herbert's been amazing for me. All right, let's go with the most frustrating player awards. This is somebody that's, kind of up and down, boom or bust kind of guy that's maybe has been in your lineups that you kind of hate, put him in your lineups. Steph, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm a little torn here, but I will talk about who I put down is Julio Jones, who I rag on a lot now. But, this guy, it's very unpredictable when he gets injured. I think the Falcons, you never know which way their offense is going. So, for me, it would be him. There's definitely some other guys I could name, but for him, it's just been like when I needed him to come through, he just didn't do it. So it's so unexpected what I'm going to get out of him. He's definitely someone that I look forward to getting rid of, unfortunately.
Yep. Okay. All right. Ryan, who do you got for your most frustrating player this year?
I'm going to go with the guy that I love as a player, and it's Mike Evans. I love Mike Evans. I think he's really good, and I have to start him every week.
Yep.
He's on your team. You start him every week. And you know what? Most times it's turned out good. He's got a ton of touchdowns. He scored 11 times this year. But he's also had games where he has just disappeared, man. We had that 2 for 10, 2 for 37, 6 for 64, no touchdowns. There's been games where he's gotten you zilch, and he's your wide receiver 1 or your wide receiver 2. There's been no injuries. It's just been unpredictable because of Brady and where we've seen him. And the more people are healthy on that team, the muddier it gets, and they're getting healthier for the fantasy playoffs. So that's going to keep going.
Yep.
And it's just not kosher. No.
Yeah, definitely a tough situation there. I have Mike Evans in my main dynasty league, and you're right. You have to start him. Who do you have better than Mike Evans? And
Can't.
Chances of touchdowns pretty much is higher than most receivers because I think he's close to the top of the league, but you can't always count on touchdowns. He's not getting the yards, he's not getting the receptions, he's just getting the touchdowns, so it's hard to count on him.
Last week he had 9 targets, but he only had 3 catches.
Yep.
Luckily 2 were touchdowns, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah, nope.
I want something I can count on at that value of a player, and it's just not sustainable.
Agreed. I'm going to go with another guy that was a pretty high pick that has been very frustrating, and luckily I only own him in one of my leagues, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously you took him probably in the top 5, maybe even top 3, and wanted him to be your workhorse, plug in there and just let him run. And it's different for guys like Christian McCaffrey because when you don't have him, you don't have him. You got to find a replacement. But when you have Ezekiel Elliott and he's healthy, you have to start him. But he's been killing you. Just not getting in the end zone. I think last night or 2 nights ago in their game. Well, it was last night. I'm getting all messed up when the games are now. He had 3 carries at the 1, and he couldn't get in. And how frustrating is that? I had him in DFS, and I was cussing at the TV like, "Come on, Zeke, get into there. Just get into the end zone, please." But yeah, Zeke has been super frustrating this year. So he's my most frustrating player. All right, now we're going to take a look back to the off-season here. And Steph, I don't know if you did any kind of rankings in the off-season or if you did any kind of off-season calls or not, but who was someone that you were kind of buying into, you were, planting your flag on in the off-season that panned out for you? Someone that's like, okay, I called this guy out and I saw it coming. Who is your guy?
Okay, so my guy was Josh Allen. I'm very happy that I have him in some leagues. This guy, he's had 30-plus points in 3 games, 25-plus in almost 7. So he's been phenomenal. I think, obviously, Diggs has been a huge part of that, who is another one that I'm very happy that I also have. But the two of them and Allen has been, I got a little bit of crap from some of my leagues when I picked that up, but I think it's definitely paying off. People are a little bit more quiet now.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I put a tweet out earlier, I think it was yesterday actually, just kind of messing with Ryan because, he's a Ravens fan. In that draft, Lamar Jackson was in that draft as well. And I said, Josh Allen's the best QB to come out of that draft. So
I didn't even see it.
You didn't see it? You got me on mute. I see how it is. But yeah, I mean, after I got my Niners shirt on. I'm a 49ers fan. He carved us up on Monday night. Just watching him do the things that he does. I mean, we're a pretty good pass defense. We're one of the top pass defenses in the league, but we could not stop him. He was passing the ball all over the field. He's finding guys that was it Isaiah McKenzie that you just don't cover that guy, but he got him a touchdown. So it's one of those things that he's been awesome. All right, Ryan, who's your best call?
I'm gonna go with the guy who I've been a fan of for a couple of years. This season, I put a big thread on everything he's done, the little things he's shown, and it's Ronald Jones. And I lost faith in him when they picked up Fournette, but you know what? He's RB12 in PPR, and he's RB11 in standard. So he's balled out this year. He was 22 years old. He was younger than some of the rookies coming in this year. And people were really, really jumping on him being bad and not fitting in. And he's still growing as a running back. And it's one of those things everybody rushes to just throw a player under the bus when the talent's there. It's very similar to what we're seeing with Cam Akers right now, actually. He's the youngest running back in the draft. He comes in the league at age 20. He's going to struggle a little bit. He's making up for that size. And when it starts to come together, it really does. And Rojo has dominated this year. He's had big plays. He's run consistently between the tackles. He's gotten the red zone. He's turned into a good back, and he's probably going to end up being the starter there for a little bit.
Yep.
So I feel great about Ronald Jones. And I'm sad I don't have as many shares of him as I did.
Yeah, he's one of those rare late breakout running backs. Usually in the first couple years, if the running back doesn't break out, they're backups, they're journeymen. They kind of stuck with him. Even got Fournette, thinking that okay, we're going to replace him this year, and he's been great. I mean, I played him in some DFS games, and I don't own him. I sold my one share of him when he was kind of struggling a little bit. But yeah, he's been great. My best call. Go ahead.
Late breakouts. I'll say the late breakouts deceiving because he's only 23 right now.
Yeah, it is a little deceiving. You're right. That's one thing I think it was you that tweeted out that he's still the youngest running back on that team. I think it was you that sent that out. I think he's he's younger than Keyshawn Johnson, Keyshawn Vaughn, who's the backup rookie running back. Yeah, yep. It's kind of crazy. He's a rookie, and Rojo's been in the league for a couple of years, and he's still younger than Keyshawn. All right, so my best call this year, I went back and I had to double check to make sure that I was actually correct on this, but you can go back and check it on goingfor2.com. But I had DK Metcalf in my redraft rankings in my top 10 for receivers. I had him at number 9. He is currently sitting at the number 3 receiver behind Devonte Adams and Tyreek Hill. If you own him, he's been a monster all year. I think he's had maybe 1 or 2 bad games all year, but he's had some huge monster games that make up for it, can win you a week. So I know people liked Metcalf last year. They were drafting him fairly high, but no one had him as high as I did, I don't think. I think I looked at our goingfor2.com rankers, and I think the highest person that had him, I think was Ryan, had him at 18. I had him all the way up at 9 in my top 10. So right. I loved. So Metcalf.
I drafted him pretty early on, actually. He was the other one that I was going to say, because I also got a little bit of, I picked him up pretty early in this.
Yeah.
I was happy, but the couple weeks he did kind of screw me over.
Yeah. I think it was. I went back and looked at his game log. I think there was 2 weeks where he got single digits.
Arizona and Rams.
Yep.
I think.
Yep. Both division games exactly.
Right.
All right. Let's put ourselves on blast. Ryan, I'll go to you first because I want to hear who you have. Ryan, who is your worst call this year?
I didn't have any. No.
Get out of here.
I'm going with Hollywood Brown, man. I was all in. I thought he was going to be a wide receiver 2 this year, and he shit the bed. It's multiple reasons. I thought he could be a Brandon Cooks type player where he'd have huge games, down games, but at the end, cumulatively, you'd have good production out of it. It's just not there. He's not going to be there till Greg Roman's gone. I just don't think that offense is built for what he does to the extent. But I was wrong on it. I got my fan eyes on a little bit. So I'll take that one.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat too. I mean, I took him in a lot of my leagues. Now, granted, I didn't take him high. I waited until he's, when he was being drafted, his ADP. But I took him with the intention that he would break out this year and be that guy for me that I can plug in. Unfortunately, that did not pan out at all.
I didn't reach, but I got a good amount. I got like 3 or 4 shares of him.
Yep,
I felt like I got him a good value, and I'm not upset about it. But I was really high. I thought I got a steal where I got him, and I got him for what that value was.
Yep. All right, Steph, what was your worst call?
So I really hate to say this, but this actually was a good year for me. I usually don't produce as well. I don't know why, but I did do fairly well. But the one person that I did draft thinking everything was going to go great is Darius Slayton. I had a little bit too much faith in him. He was very choppy this year with points. I mean, we're talking double digits, and then the next week 1.8 points. So it definitely hurt me in a couple leagues having him trying to figure out if he's going to play, if he's going to give me anything to work with. So that he's been a struggle this year. I ended up dropping him in a couple leagues too. It's just that I can't really trust him. You don't know. It's very inconsistent. He almost plays better when they have worse. It doesn't make any sense with him. So there's no figuring him out. So
yep, I'm with you as well. I have him in the league, and when Shepard came back too, Shepard really ate into all of his targets as well. So it's tough right now. He's either boom or bust. He catches that deep bomb for a touchdown, or he's not giving you anything at all. So my worst call, and fans of the show, especially if you watch the DFS show, because they give me a really hard time about this on the DFS show.
I know it is.
It's Mr. N'Keal Harry. I was loving N'Keal Harry. I saw the connection with Cam Newton, with Kelvin Benjamin type receiver, big guy. He's more athletic than Kelvin Benjamin, more athletic than Devin Funchess. Cam Newton was there. I thought N'Keal Harry was going to be the one that's going to break out. I own him in pretty much every league. And man, did he disappoint. I mean, he's not even startable at this point. He's not even like a spot starter. I mean, I think there's games this year where he didn't even get targeted. So it's been brutal, especially in the DFS show. They give me a real hard time about it. They ask me each week, am I starting N'Keal Harry this week? Because for the first few weeks, I was starting him every week, hoping that breakout was coming, but it just never came, unfortunately. All right, we're running against the clock a little bit, so we're gonna do these last couple really quick. So give me one player, Ryan, that has played well all year that you think is going to let owners down in the playoffs.
Travis Fulgham, he's dead. Like, Jalen Rager's there. Like, Alshon's back. Alshon Jeffrey, who can barely walk, is starting over him. If you didn't sell him, you missed out. The dude's dead.
Yeah.
The signs were there. Like, he's done. He was on your team. He helped you get there. Be thankful for that, but find a replacement.
Signs were there. That I didn't read the signs. I've still got him on my team on my bench, so I didn't sell him in time, unfortunately. Steph, who do you got?
So this is definitely going to be a controversial one. Everyone's going to disagree with me, but I'm a little bit worried about Claypool moving forward. Their next matchup is against Buffalo. They're 9th against the pass. Their last matchup is Indy, 3rd against the pass. I think with Johnson's production and with Connor coming back, there's a little bit of, I'm a little skeptical of how he will do. So if he was someone that was getting relied on very much, I'm a little worried about the direction that they're headed.
Yeah, I like that call. If you thought yours is controversial, wait till you hear mine, because I'm going straight to the top with this one. Dalvin Cook is going to disappoint. He's got some of the worst matchups you can have. He has Tampa Bay, who has a really good run defense. He's got Chicago, and he's got New Orleans, who hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in over 2 years. Mm-hmm. Literally have not done that in over 2 years. The Saints have done that. That's a championship week 16. I'm not saying he's going to be a complete bust. Obviously, he gets the usage. He gets the volume. He's going to be good for you. He may not win you a week. He may be just an average running back for a couple of these games here. So you're not going to get that 35-point explosion that you're used to getting him, where you can actually win you a week. So don't go out and try to sell the Dalvin Cook or anything, or bench him. But I do think you'll be disappointed a little bit with those matchups that he has for the next 3 weeks. All right, let's flip it. Ryan, struggling player that's going to do well in the playoffs.
Jonathan Taylor. He was somebody everybody jumped on saying he's a bust, and he went from running back 1 to to a bust, and everyone freaked out because he had a couple games with no carries, but there were games where it made sense. His last stretch is the Raiders, Houston, for the last 2 fantasy playoff games, which are great matchups for him. They're going to be games where they're going to run the ball, want to control it a little bit. He's a good back. It seems like it's starting to come together. He's put back-to-back 90-yard games, and the last one he's on 13 carries. Like, you can see he's like, it's slowing down a little bit, even though it's taking longer than we expected. But I think coming down there, it might pay off for you. If you made it with him on your team, you might be happy.
Yeah, I like that call. Good one. Steph, who do you have as your struggling player that you think will do well in the playoffs?
Yeah, so he snagged mine. So there's 2 that I'm a little bit in between. So I'm going to be a super homer, and I'm going to go with the Giants player. I think to be a little bit more realistic, I'm going to go with Sterling Shepard. So he is someone that if you picked up, obviously he was out for 3 games. He had a bunch of double-point games right after that, and then you saw only 5.5, whatever it was, depending on what kind of league you're playing in. But I think with Danny coming back, and I think with the momentum that this team has, as well as, I mean, with their matchups, I think that he's someone that you might see really take off. I think that I would obviously trust him much more than some other options. I was going to say Ingram, but I don't really want my DMs flooded after this. So.
All right. I like that one. That's a good one. So I'm going to go with someone on Ryan's team, actually, and I'm looking at the matchups once more. And tight end Mark Andrews. Tight end Mark Andrews. As long as he can come back healthy, you know, he had COVID. He's a high risk candidate there. So if he comes back and he's fine for the playoffs, they got.
He got activated today.
He did activate today. All right, then yeah, he's a full go. So we have a thing on the DFS show on Friday that we do. We call it the flow chart, and there's certain positions you play against certain teams, and one of those positions is the Browns for tight ends. If you have a tight end playing against the Browns, and that's his first matchup, the Browns. Then you got the Jags the next week, and the Jags are bad against everything, so you can put him in that one. The Giants in championship week's a little bit tougher, but I think that the Giants are stronger on the corners. In the middle of the field is kind of where you beat them, so I do think Andrews can kind of make a name for himself there against the Giants as well. So Mark Andrews is my guy. I think he's going to start coming into his own here in these next 3 games.
I'm a big fan of that one.
That's a good one. I'm a little upset. I didn't think so.
I thought you were going with Dobbins. That's all right.
Oh yeah, Dobbins is another good one too. I don't know if I can put trust in him though, because he last night he was good, but he still got vultured on a couple of carries that I thought he should have gotten. But Dobbins would have been.
He's going to get vultured all year.
Yeah, it's just the nature of that team, unfortunately.
We all knew it.
Yep. All right, fantasy football MVP. I mean, there's different ways you can look at this. You can go with highest point scorer. You can go with a Kamara or Dalvin Cook, or you look at guys that got drafted later that are kind of up and comers that blew up. So, Steph, I'm going to go to you first. Who is your fantasy football MVP?
So this one's a little tough. And I know, so the person that comes to mind, and I feel like this is probably not as normal response because he did miss a couple games, but Aaron Jones has been someone for me that I personally have adored having on the team. I mean, I was able to overcome his injury. I was able to play someone else in, but this guy, when he is on target, I mean, he is racking up the points. So for me, I've had him, this is now my 2nd year in a couple leagues, and I think that he is someone that always, when he is playing and it's a solid matchup, he is 100% going to produce. It's without a fact. I mean, you saw him come back after his injury. The guy is running like a lunatic on the field. So he's someone that I always trust. And for me, it's my MVP. Hey. If it was like the whole fantasy, I would probably have a different opinion. But personally, he's been my MVP.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because, I mean, I was down on Aaron Jones because I thought the way he played last year, he was just too efficient. If you look at the touches to touchdowns, it didn't add up. I thought there's no way he can repeat that success with that efficiency. But he's been awesome. I mean, he's won you some weeks for sure. He's been very consistent. So I like that one. Ryan, who you got?
Well, I wanted to go Justin Jefferson, but I know I'm limited how much I'm allowed to talk about him on a show. So
you've reached your limit.
I'm going to go with I've reached it already. I know this. I'm going with Devonte Adams, man. He has been stellar. He's as automatic as it gets for the wide receiver position. Since he's been back and fully healthy, his worst game is 12 fantasy points. he is a machine. He's heavily targeted. He gets in the red zone. He's the best wide receiver in fantasy right now. I know Tyreek Hill has something to say about it, and he has these monster games. But if we're talking a week-to-week basis, there's not a person I'd feel more comfortable starting at that position than Devonte Adams.
Yeah, I love that call.
And he was a value last year.
Yeah, it's amazing that he wasn't.
I got
you're
him
right.
in the third round in a couple spots.
Wow, I didn't know he was that much of a value, but yeah, you're right. I mean, he definitely was being drafted.
I got him
a
at
little bit later.
3-1, man.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm going to stick with wide receivers as well, and this is more about where he was drafted than it is about his performance, because he's performed well. Don't get me wrong; he's been awesome this year, but he was drafted super late. People were down on him. They were saying he's on a new team. He's going to a team that's a run-first team. He's not going to be that good. We mentioned him earlier on the show, but Stephon Diggs has been amazing. I mean, I don't know where the hate was coming from, because they're saying a run-first team, but the Vikings were a run-first team, and he did okay over there. So going to the Bills, he's been awesome. Him and Josh Allen hit it off right away. He's been double-digit points pretty much every single week as I go through his game log. I don't think he's busted, quote-unquote, busted any of the weeks that you've put him in there. So Stephon Diggs has been amazing, and so he's my fantasy MVP.
I want to take mine back now and go Diggs, because I do. I mean, the Diggs and Allen chemistry does not get enough attention.
Yep.
Those guys, that was a beautiful, those two together is awesome. I love watching them play. I think they don't get enough attention. Their chemistry on the field is phenomenal.
Yep.
While we're doing repicks, Stephon Diggs, I'm not going with him for MVP. I want to go with him about players I was right about.
Oh, yeah, Stephon Diggs, because you definitely were on him.
Every show in the offseason, I said him and Josh Allen made sense together.
Yeah.
And everyone said I was an idiot for it.
I would have
it
said
made
that
sense.
for sure.
Huh?
I was nervous. I mean, I picked him up, obviously, but I got him pretty late in some of my leagues, and I've been so happy. But watching them play is fun, too. It's like the two of them just have, they do phenomenal on the field together.
Yeah, I mean, the telltale thing right here, so I mentioned my team. We played them Monday night. Verrett this year has been a lockdown corner. I mean, he's legit been a lockdown corner for us. And there's a play where Diggs was running a route and completely left Verrett confused. Didn't know where the hell Diggs was. Of course, Diggs makes a big play out of it. That's what he's been doing all year. He's an excellent route runner. Josh Allen has a huge arm to get the ball down the field to him. So he's been awesome. It's Diggs for me for sure. All right, it is time for our Forgotten Fantasy Player.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Steph, who you got for your Forgotten Fantasy Player?
It's a retired player, right? I don't want to start talking and be completely
wrong.
Right?
Retired player, yep.
All right. So once again, I'm going to be a homer. And I'm going to go Bradshaw from the Giants. So this guy was crazy. I mean, I had to pull it up. His entire career, this guy rushed 4,323 yards. He was crazy on the field, stacking points like nuts. So he definitely, aside from being a homer, it has to be my pick, 100%. I mean, even I'm looking now, he reached 1,000 yards after only being in the league for so long. So he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's awesome. That's a really good pick. And that's one that I don't think we've had yet. We've been doing this segment now for almost 2 years.
We definitely haven't had it.
Definitely haven't had it.
I like that.
For a second there, you said Bradshaw. I was thinking Terry Bradshaw. I was like, there's no way she's old enough to remember.
Why did you ever watch?
But I was like, no, Giants is definitely not going to be Terry Bradshaw. But yeah, I agree. Ahmad Bradshaw was awesome. Did he go to the Colts after the Giants? I thought he went to the Colts after that.
This guy, when I was looking into it, preparing for this, it was his third consecutive year, over 1,000 yards. I mean, the guy crushed down the Giants. So, he had to be my pick. I would have loved to have him on my team.
Yeah, he was awesome. All right, guys, that wraps up the show for tonight. We'll go around the room really quick. Drop your Twitter handle one more time where we can find you, where we can follow you, mention your show. Steph, we'll go to you first.
Sure. So you guys can find me at Twitter at Steffi Smalls with 3 L's. And I usually post a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. I'm working with a bunch of people. So thanks for having me on, guys. This is very fun. Yeah,
thanks for coming on. This was definitely a blast. Appreciate you coming on. Ryan, what you got going on?
Find me on Twitter at Foss534. First name, last name, right here, Foss. Find me here every Wednesday night. And one day I'm going to make the announcement, I promise. I'm just not allowed yet, so it's coming.
It's coming. All right, guys, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We got some big things coming up in January. If you haven't seen my Twitter feed, we're doing a complete website redesign for Going for Two, and we're also releasing some new off-season shows. So if you've been watching the War Room shows, we're kind of rebranding all of them. We're giving them their own shows, and we're going to have some more shows on this channel with some new hosts. A lot of fun things. Just check out the Twitter timeline. You'll see all this stuff there. For Ryan, for Steph, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.